Greetings and salutations, everyone! My name is Fire Mage, and welcome back to Rimworld Ascension, Take 2, Episode 52. If you enjoy this episode, please remember to like and subscribe, and as always, mod list is down in the description. And with that, let's get on to the episode. Alright, picking up where we left off last time, what are my plans for today? Well, first of all, let's clear the air. Rimworld just had the big 1.6 Odyssey update, and I'm sure many of you are excited for it. I am as well. However, I will not be updating Rimworld Ascension to 1.6. We will be remaining on 1.5 for reasons mostly to try to keep the save file as intact as possible and not potentially break anything. So we won't be getting any of that new content, unfortunately. Now, on to what I actually plan to get done today. First of all, we are going to finish tearing down the old garage and upgrading the secondary mule. And in terms of building projects, I actually want to build a few more houses somewhere over here, and I want to get to work on building a proper distillery, because I feel like that is something we need to get doing. Now, in terms of how I want to get the distillery built, it's going to be a relatively simple building, simply due to the size of the whiskey casks. We will be making just a simple box for it. Now, before we start designing a brewery, we need to design a road, which means we are going to need to tear out the sauna, unfortunately. While I have enjoyed the sauna, and we will probably rebuild it at a certain point, we do need to build a road here. And in order to do that, we will need to tear out the sauna. So that is what we will do before we design a brewery. And it looks like the parka for our lizard is done. Very nice. Let us see how much that helps Reaper's temperature control, because it is rather cold outside right now. And that is just what Reaper needed. He can now handle up to -8 degrees Fahrenheit. And that should help keep him away from ever having the hypothermic slowdown. And there we go. The last of the old garage has been removed, and the second mule has been upgraded. Very good. Let's go ahead, plan the next upgrade, and now it is time to design another road. Now, starting off, this one is probably going to be the easiest. It's just going to be a straight line down until it connects. No need to be too fancy. Straight line works just fine, but this one over here is going to be a little bit more complicated, because we can't just make it a straight line. It does somewhat have to curve. Like so, and then we can make it a straight line after that. And that will work for the main road connection between the northern residential area and down here, but of course, a main road right here still ignores literally the entire rest of the colony, which won't do. So we'll need to make another little road expansion. Now, obviously we don't want to cut into the graveyard, but we can probably get close to it right here. Like so. Now, this will require a little bit of reworking, but it should work relatively fine. To just do a little something like that. And then, unfortunately, it is not quite large enough here to put another 5-wide road, but a 4-wide road will suffice. Just fine. And then we can just run another road right here. And then just link these up. And there we go. That should do it for the updated road system. Now, while we could wait for that to get constructed, I want to get to work on the brewery immediately. So we're going to go ahead and start designing it. Now, as I said, it's going to be quite simple and just be a box, essentially. No need to make anything too fancy. It is simply to hold the caskets. And this should allow us to have 6 of them, which should be more than enough. Then we simply throw a cheap concrete floor down. And then we'll just have to hook up a radiator to make sure it stays warm. And then that will be done. And on top of working on that brewery, we also, as I said earlier, need to build some more houses. And those will have to go right here, which is admittedly somewhat cramped. So we'll simply slap in a double-bedded house and just call that a day. And there we go. The new house is built. Excellent. That means that we can now remove the final old house, but we are still not quite done building houses because we still have to build a house for Reaper, who is currently just living in the hospital because we don't have any other beds. Now, this is where it gets a little bit tricky because, well, there's not a lot of space left up here, or at least not a lot of efficient space. This concrete plant is kind of taking up a lot of space, and so is the quarry. Now, the quarry is almost finished, almost out of resources, so we could wait, or we could try really hard to squeeze in a house somewhere in this tight little space, and it looks like we could actually squeeze one in right here, and it will fit perfectly. I do like it when things fit together so neatly. And that is exactly what we are going to do. We will build one last house right here. And hopefully, by the time we get more prisoners to convert, the quarry will be done and we can put some houses over here. And at some point, we will probably need to just outright move the concrete plant. And there we go. The whiskey brewery is finished. And that means that we can finally start making some whiskey mash. And we'll just set that to do forever. We don't have much other use for flour other than as an emergency foodstuff. So we'll just go ahead and make it all into whiskey. Now, the ideal temperature for whiskey is between 44.6 and 77 degrees Fahrenheit, so we will set the radiator to try to maintain the room at a perfect 60 degrees, a nice middle ground. And with that done, our constructors are already beginning work on the final house and making great time on it. And there we go. Reaper's house is finished. And that is why it is so beneficial to have a whole bunch of constructors. They are able to get these projects knocked out in no time. And now, before we begin on any of my other large projects, we will let them finish the roads and, of course, deconstructing the old whiskey brewery and the last house, so we can check that off the list. And there we go. The last of the old houses has been deconstructed. And now that means that we get to start on my next big project, which you might be wondering what that is. It is once again reworking the dining hall, as well as building one more small building. Because I want to get more cheese being made, because it doesn't go bad, so it makes for a great travel food. And also we just have a little too much milk sitting around the colony, so I'd like to get something going for that. So we're going to make ourselves a little tiny cheese production building. And we'll actually put it just off on the side of this one to give it a little bit more shape. Again, it's not going to be nearly as big as the whiskey brewery. We don't need to be producing that much cheese. But a little thing like this should do just fine. And then, while they are doing that, I would also like to begin work on upgrading this. And the first thing we're going to do is completely tear out this wall here, as it is no longer needed, because once the cheese is out, we can use this for an expanded dining hall, which we do need, like, a lot. Our dining hall is very small. It is not big enough for the colony. We will also be shrinking down the back room here just a little bit. Give us a teeny bit more space to play with, which also means that we will be deconstructing right here. And we can deconstruct this and this as well, as we will be completely remaking the bathroom, since it has not been worked on since we built this last upgrade. Now, in terms of some more long-term projects I would like to do, I would like to completely redo the workshop and split it up into more specialized areas. We're going to put that on the list. Now, is that efficient? Absolutely not, but it would mean that we could put a tailoring bench in its own building where we could build outfits and store them, which I think would look quite nice. So we will be doing that. And it looks like one of the muffalo we're hunting has gone revenge. That is not that big of a deal. Apparently, Reaper is trying to hunt with frag grenades. Concerning. Anyway, now that that's done with, another large project I would like to do is building a bridge over here in the north, because I just feel like that would be useful. And finally, I would like to update the guest houses. And those are going to be some slightly longer term projects, as I do have other smaller things I'd like to do, like upgrading the prison a little bit, turning it to concrete and whatnot. But for right now, we will simply focus on working on the dining hall, because it does need a little bit of love. And there we go. The walls are now deconstructed in the dining hall. So I think the first thing we're going to do is we are going to move the freezer airlock door down to right here. And we are going to shrink the freezer quite a bit, because quite frankly, we want as much space for other things as possible, and that can only really be done by, well, shrinking the freezer down. Of course, it should still be fully productive and usable, so it shouldn't harm us too much in the long run. But it needs to get done, and then once that's done, I have a few ideas that I think will look quite nice for the main area here. Oh, and it looks like a bulk goods trader from the Red Bison have arrived to do business. Very nice. And for some reason, they are going to go stand in the river. I hate when they do this. Bella Rose, please go equip the trading outfit. And then we will go and trade with them and see what we can get. Alright, let's see what this bulk goods trader has to offer. And right off the bat, doesn't look like they have anything too terribly interesting. Apparently, though, despite being tribal, they have spacer ammo. Where did they get that? Who knows? I sure don't. And honestly, probably doesn't matter too terribly much, because we are going to go ahead and buy all their cloth, because we need it for some upgrades. And we can go ahead and sell them some of these leathers. And I think that is just about it. And so that is a good trade, getting us 216 silver. Very nice. Now, in the meantime, though, the freezer upgrade has been finished, which now means we have access to all of this lovely, lovely space. Now, the first thing we're going to do is design a new bathroom. It's going to be a little bit bigger than the old one. And it's not going to be fancy because it's pretty much just 4 toilets. There's not going to be a whole lot else in it. Just 2 toilets. And they will be in their own little stalls, like so. And then we will put in a sink right here in the middle. And that is all we will be doing for that. Like I said, nothing too fancy. Just a simple little bathroom. And if we wanted to, we could also probably move the hot water tanks in there, but that's not too terribly important. Now, the next big thing is I actually want to expand the kitchen a little bit, because it is just a little bit cramped. And we also have a lot more options for cooking now, so it's about time we make it just a little bit bigger. Not too terribly much, of course, just a little bit. Like this, and that should be fine for that. And the next set of changes are done. And now we get to work on the next one. And that next change is going to be 1, moving this telescope here, but then we will be expanding the doors out a little bit. Simply to get just a little bit more space, as has been the goal for a while here. See, the reason I want to push this one out is simply because this random open tile here bothers me. So, I'm going to push this wall back slightly, so that we don't have a random open tile, and I'm pushing this one back just because this side is really flat and it's bothering me that we just have a complete straight edge here. It just looks bad. Now, while they're doing that, let's go ahead and get to work on redoing the kitchen. Now, we're going to move the brewery to right here, the butcher's table to right here, and that will allow me to put in a sink for the stove, which will be very good, as that will allow us to have the kitchen be ever so slightly cleaner. And it looks like Skypanese can gain an expertise in construction. Very interesting. Now, while I could wait and save this expertise slot for crafting, I do feel like construction would be nice. Specifically, I think going for building, so we can get that construction speed multiplier, would be ideal. As quite frankly, we need to build things quickly, especially because of how many large-scale upgrades we've been doing lately. And speaking of which, looks like the upgrades here are just about done, which brings us to the final section of upgrades for the dining hall. And that is, of course, the new dining tables and more recreation. Because let's be honest, we don't really have a lot going for us in the way of recreation. We have a radio, a punching bag, a dartboard, a game of Ur of poor quality, and then hoop stones and horseshoes. Not a lot. So we are going to be fixing that. Now, the first thing we're going to do is, of course, tables. We need tables, and seeing as the tables are already over here, we will simply be setting up more tables there and calling that a day. We'll put the dartboard right here. I feel like that's a not half bad spot. But we are going to have to completely deconstruct these tables because I need to remake them from the ground up. 1, because, well, their qualities aren't the best, and 2, because I just need to see all the space I have to work with. Let's also go ahead and move the radio. Get this as open as possible and deconstruct the blue fur punching bag. And there we go. All right, now let's get to work on figuring out how we want to do these tables. Now we have quite a few different table designs. We have a grand table, which apparently we could fit in here. And we definitely have the resources for it. So, could be a thing we do. Or we could build a simple large table. Or a bunch of small tables. So we do have quite a few interesting choices. I think in order to maintain optimal space efficiency, we will simply do tables of the 1x2 variety. Now, I will have to play around here for a minute, figure out the optimal placement for them. But once that is done, we should be able to have something pretty nice, and I think that will actually work wonders. And then, of course, we need chairs. Simple dining chairs. Don't need anything too terribly fancy. Little something like that. And that will give us a grand total of 24 dining chairs. More than enough. And now that the dining tables themselves are done, now we get to mess around with the recreation options. Now we have quite a few, and unfortunately some of them are a little too big. We could fit a billiards table in here. It would be a little bit cramped, but it is theoretically possible to put a billiards table in. We could also fit a roulette table, but, you know, don't exactly feel like that fits the theme of a nice, quaint dining hall. Same with a poker table, so I think we will actually go with a billiards. And we'll stick to making everything out of wood, since it's the dining hall. Don't need to give it too much concrete. And we'll put the billiards table right here. Nice and centralized, and leaving plenty of space to walk around it. And then we will actually be replacing the game of with a chessboard. A simple change, but one I feel will be most welcome. And then to top everything off, we will build an arcade machine so that our people can have a little gaming console to play on. I feel like they'll quite enjoy that. Oh, and actually, one last thing we are going to build, a bookcase, so that we can take all these books that we just have sitting in our warehouse, and we can put them in here for ease of access to read. And it would seem that White, while meditating in our very sad and depressing ideology room, has gained another Psylink level. Wonderful, and now we get to choose what we want. Now, we could grab invisibility, which eventually leads to the Guardian skip barrier, which could be quite useful. In fact, I think that might be exactly what we do. Start working towards that. Of course, it will take a while to get to it. Oh, and since we're over here, it looks like the next upgrade for the secondary mule is almost done, which is the expanded cargo space. It's already got the reinforced armor and the big chem fuel tanks. So it's almost up to par with mule number 1. Just what we like to see. And there we go. The dining hall is finally finished. And with that, I think I will be leaving this episode off here. We made a lot of good progress. Mule number 2 is almost fully upgraded. Dining hall is fully upgraded. 3 more houses have been built. The road network expanded, and we now have a proper brewery and cheese facility. And on top of all of that, we managed to deconstruct all the old houses. So we can take that off the list. Next episode, we will begin work on the new projects. Specifically, we will probably, next time, be working mostly on the bridge and the guest houses, as the guest houses haven't been touched in a while, so I think they deserve a little bit of love. On top of all of that, we have somehow already overloaded our power grid, so we're going to need to work on that next time as well. But with all that said and done, I will see you all in the next episode.